Alright. What is up, everyone? Gonna do a quick stream on Emerson. I feel like I've talked about him a lot recently, but haven't devoted enough time. I feel like Emerson's the type of person that you can study, and every time you study, you take something new away. There's a new layer that unfolds. There's a new element that you see that you didn't see previously. And I think it has to do to the poetic nature of how he writes, the open-endedness of his ideas, and the almost eternal weight that the words carry.
The answers to life's biggest questions about purpose, identity, and meaning weren't hidden in books or waiting to be taught, but were already within you. Ralph Waldo Emerson believed exactly this.
Emerson, to break down his philosophy very simply, it's the philosophy of life. It's the philosophy that if you live your life in accordance with your true nature, you don't need anything else. So the easiest way to understand Emerson is to understand Thoreau, because Henry David Thoreau, the guy that wrote Walden, was very much inspired by Emerson. Emerson was like his idol and really spurred him on to write Walden. And what you find from this is the idea of Walden is not to shut yourself off from society. The idea of Walden is to get to the baseline roots of what it means to be human. Get to the baseline needs. Get to the bare minimum, and in the bare minimum, you understand exactly what it is that you need out of life. Exactly what it is that you require to be eternally happy. And what Thoreau found was through having less, he could appreciate everything. Through having nothing, that's where he had everything. And it's sometimes you have to shut yourself off to the materialistic nature of the world to find that everything you want is already yours.
When he wrote, "Trust thyself, every heart vibrates to that iron string." His philosophy isn't merely about self-confidence, it's about understanding that each of us carries a profound connection to the divine and to nature, a connection capable of guiding us toward a more authentic and fulfilled life. Even Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most influential philosophers, admired Emerson as a twin.
Nietzsche was like critical of pretty much every other philosopher except Emerson. He also really liked Epicurus, but out of the back of my mind, I can't think of any other philosopher aside from Emerson and Epicurus that Nietzsche loved, and that should tell you all you need to know about him, because if you can inspire even the most pessimistic among us, I think you have something interesting.
Twin soul. While their philosophies differed in some ways, Nietzsche described reading Emerson's work as, "I have never felt so much at home in a book." Emerson's ideas on individuality and self-reliance have inspired generations of thinkers and remain profoundly relevant today. Let's find out more about his ideas.
So the most interesting part about Emerson is he didn't write volumes of works. Most of what he wrote is, I haven't read it, but his journal, which I don't know how long that is, but most of his essays are like 10 pages, 5 pages, maybe 20 at max. And in these short pages, he basically explains a facet of life through a manner that would normally take a philosopher 500 pages to write, but he did it so thoroughly in 10 pages. And it's really his style is really unique in that sense that he can tackle such large issues with so few words.
And if you can do me a favor and subscribe and hit the thumbs up button, it would really mean a lot to me, and it would really help this channel. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a 19th century American essayist, poet, and philosopher whose life and ideas profoundly shaped the intellectual and cultural movements of his time. Born in Boston in 1803 into a family with a long line of ministers, Emerson initially followed in his father's footsteps, attending Harvard Divinity School and becoming a Unitarian minister. However,
Unitarian is just someone that doesn't believe that Christ was God. That's all Unitarians.
His time in the ministry was
I
short-lived.
don't know if it's so popular anymore.
After the death of his first wife, Ellen Tucker, in 1831, Emerson experienced a profound spiritual crisis that led him to question traditional religious doctrines and the role of organized religion. In 1832, Emerson resigned from the ministry and embarked on a journey to Europe, where he encountered some of the leading intellectual figures of the time, including William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Thomas Carlyle. These encounters deeply influenced his thinking, particularly his interest in...
I think at this time there was not really any great American minds. Most of the philosophy you see, or you saw at the time, came from Europeans. Really, was this the existentialist would be? No, this is before existentialist. This is like the Schopenhauer, Kant, Hegel, Heidegger, I think.
individualism, nature, and the power of intuition over institutional authority. Upon returning to the United States, Emerson began delivering lectures that would form the foundation of his transcendentalist philosophy. Settling in Concord, Massachusetts, he became a central figure in the transcendentalist movement, which emphasized self-reliance, the spiritual connection between humans and nature, and
Transcendentalism is like think of it as an offshoot of like Taoism. Think of it as like finding truth, finding meaning, finding purpose through the natural order, the natural way of things. And it's not like, oh, go be a caveman, but it's like finding yourself in the world and breaking away from the conventional norms. Like there's certain norms that go against how people are supposed to live. Like the easiest one is grouping everyone's opinions into one of two ways. Clearly, that's going to have a detrimental impact on people because people are so much more complex than two points of views. And this is what leads to things such as the political state of the world right now. It's like everyone's so insane because everyone's been forced to be in these one of two boxes. And it's like there's more to who you are than that. There's more to who want to show yourself to be than just
the belief in an overarching divine presence that Emerson called the Oversoul, which we'll cover later in the video. Emerson's
think of it like
personal
the
life was
Tao or
marked
the
by
Tao.
intellectual curiosity
Basically
and
like
deep
it's like Spinoza's God in essence.
connections with other thinkers, including Henry David Thoreau and Margaret Fuller. His essays, such as Nature, 1836, and Self-Reliance, 1841, remain among his most influential works, offering a vision of life that...
I think those are his two best. My favorite is probably Self-Reliance or History. I don't know if he's talking about history here, but history has probably Emerson's most interesting idea, and it's that history belongs to all men. Anything that anyone else can do, you can do as well. So once something's accomplished, it means you could do it, but you can also do it better because that's the nature of human progress. Like once someone does something, then it proves to the entire world that it can be done. Think of the 4 minute mile. People said the 4 minute mile was impossible. One guy did it, broke the record. Within a year, like 23 more people had broken his record. And it's like once we know the limits of human potential, then we can expand upon it. And it's like you should embrace when someone does something that you want to do. You should be invigorated. You should see that this is something that you can do now. This is something that's possible. And like if you want to do what they did, just align yourself with the actions that got them to where they were. It's very weird how we look towards others' accomplishments and get jealous because it's like it should just show you that you can do it too. It should show you that you have the same path, that you have the same opportunity. It's a very weird idea to me.
challenges readers to trust themselves, embrace individuality, and seek the divine within and around them. Despite personal tragedies, including the deaths of loved ones and the challenges of raising a family, Emerson maintained his belief in the power of resilience and the ability of individuals to transcend life's difficulties. For Ralph Waldo Emerson, nature was far more than a collection of physical landscapes. It was a profound and living presence, deeply intertwined with the human spirit. In his essay, Nature, he wrote, "The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God."
So Emerson believed that we were like part of a grander cycle, part of a grander order. So not necessarily even like spiritually, but materially as well. Everything that makes you up is going to be something else at some point. Everything that, you're comprised of was once something else. So it's like we're part of a bigger cycle, part of something very grand. And once you recognize this fact, once you recognize the connectivity and the fact of your impermanence, then it almost gives you a reverence for the rest of the world.
This statement encapsulates Emerson's belief that the natural world is a direct reflection of the divine, offering a pathway to greater understanding of ourselves and the universe. His philosophy of nature challenges the view that the material world exists solely for human exploitation. Instead, he saw nature as a mirror of spiritual truth, a space where individuals could connect with the oversoul, the universal spirit that unites all living beings. This perspective,
I mean, the greatest way to experience what he's talking about right now is go out in nature, turn off your phone, sit down and just listen to the sounds. Just feel the wind blowing through the trees and start to notice more and more and more and more and more. And then there's a silence, there's a patience, there's a calmness that will come over you, and you feel something beyond yourself. You feel something greater. And this is what Emerson is able to put into words. I wish I could, because I'd be like a published author, but like this is uh this is exactly what Emerson explains through his essays, and this is why they're still around. It's because he can capture the entire essence of nature in a handful of words.
as mentioned earlier, formed a cornerstone of transcendentalism, emphasizing that through nature, we encounter the divine not as an abstract entity, but as an intimate presence in our lives. The Oversoul, a universal spirit that connects all living beings. In his essay, The Oversoul, 1841, Emerson described it as an eternal and unifying presence accessible to everyone through
I can't
introspection and
remember if
intuition.
I've read this or not.
He
Let me check. If it's in this book, I've probably read it. Oh yeah, I've read it. I don't remember it, but I read the essay he's talking.
believed that each person carries a spark of the divine within, capable of guiding them toward truth and understanding. Within man is the soul of the whole.
Think about it like this. Nobody is exactly who you are. Nobody has the exact characteristics, the exact circumstances, the exact experiences, and thus nobody can bring your unique gifts to the world, because whatever someone brings to the world is different than who you really are. When you show the world who you really are, then you live up to your duty of becoming that person, becoming who you're meant to be, like living up to your potential, living up to that true desired self. But so many people will push this real self to the background for the sake of fitting in, for the sake of conformity, for the sake of being popular, for the sake of everything except themselves. But in the end, they lose the only thing that matters. What good is money if you lose yourself? What good is fame if you lose yourself? What good is anything if you don't even have yourself? It's a very weird paradox, and it's something I feel like a lot of people are cognizant of. I think a lot of people have a intuitive understanding of this idea, but they don't embrace it. They're not willing to be disliked. They're not willing to be looked at as weird or out there or something deviating from the norm. And I think if more people were concerned about how they really felt about themselves versus how other people feel about themselves, I feel like a lot of the issues of the world would just disappear, because if you're living authentically, there's nothing to be sad about. Everything you look for externally will never make you happy. The only thing that will ever make you happy is when you're a person that you love being, when you embody a personality of someone that you actually are.
He wrote, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all life. This concept challenged traditional religious structures by asserting that spiritual truth doesn't require institutional mediation, but can be directly experienced through reflection, creativity, or communion with nature. The Oversoul also carried an ethical dimension, reminding us of our shared unity and fostering empathy and harmony. By centering spirituality in personal experience and universal connection, Emerson.
But this is an idea that Schopenhauer put forward. I think Schopenhauer said this after Emerson, but I really like Schopenhauer's definition. And he said that all compassion comes from the recognition that this is thou, that you're everything, that everything is composed of the exact same building blocks, and on a fundamental level, we are all the same. We might be different expressions of the same entity, the same substance, the same material, but inherently on some level we're all the same. So when you look to someone else, don't see them as something removed from you. Look at them as something that you are as well. When you look at someone and you see yourself in them, then you can act with compassion. Then you can understand that if I went through exactly what this person went through, I'm pretty sure I'd be an asshole too. I'm pretty sure I would make this mistake too. So who am I to blame this person? Who am I to get angry at this person? Let me act with forgiveness. Let me act with compassion. That's the idea that Emerson's saying right here.
Emerson's Oversoul offers a timeless vision of how to find meaning and purpose in a fragmented world. Emerson believed that immersing oneself in the natural world had profound restorative benefits, both spiritually and emotionally. He argued that nature serves as a refuge from the noise of daily life, offering clarity and renewal. In the woods, we return.
The more you the more you start to read these more esoteric philosophies, the more you start to understand that everything that distracts you, everything that takes you away from your patience, your quietness, your awareness, is something that is destructive. Is something that actively gets in your way of living your life exactly how you want to live. And what I mean by this is the more you dwell on things, the more you worry about problems, the more you think about things, the more you're going to drive yourself mad. Think of why people are so unhappy today. It's nothing aside from their brains working way too hard. Like, why is it that depression is so high? Why is it that all of these issues are so high? Because the minute they have any second to relax, the minute they have any second to, turn their brain off and, sit back and just, not do anything, they pick up their phone, they look on social media, they see the news, they see this, they see this. Oh, this horrible tragedy happened today. Oh, this squirrel attacked someone. Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's endless news stories to work yourself up, to upset yourself. And instead of doing any of these things, you could simply sit there, allow your mind to relax, allow your brain to recharge, and just be with yourself, be with your own thoughts, be bored. The greatest superpower you have is being bored. That's where every work of genius comes from. It comes from boredom. That's why every single invention that has happened in the past 20 years has not been innovative. Like what is something that's fundamentally transformed the way that we've lived? Maybe the computer, maybe smartphones, but I would argue these things are detrimental. What has genuinely transformed humanity for the good? And the answer is nothing. What great works of art are we getting? Slop. What great movies are we getting? Slop. What great books are we getting? It's all slop. And it's like we wonder why, and it's because we'll distract ourselves all day long. We'll go on our phones all day long. We'll get ourselves worked up all day long and not allow ourselves to sit with our real selves. You're so much more than your brain. You're so much more than your body. You're so much more than your thoughts. It's very, very weird that we define ourselves as such limiting factors and wonder why we're not living a life that we love. Because we're restricting ourselves. It's because we're putting ourselves into a box. It's because everything we do is seeking the true self, but we're going about it all wrong.
And to reason and faith, he wrote, suggesting that stepping into nature can help us reconnect with our authentic selves. For Emerson, nature was not just a source of beauty or inspiration, it was a teacher. Observing its patterns and cycles revealed universal truths about resilience, interdependence, and the harmony underlying existence. He urged individuals to approach nature with curiosity and reverence, seeing it not as separate from humanity, but as an integral part of it. In this sense, nature offered lessons not just about the world, but about how to live with purpose and connection. His His radical vision of nature also carried an implicit critique of industrialization and materialism. He saw these forces as alienating people from their innate connection to the natural world. His writings encourage us to step back from the artificial structures of modern life and rediscover.
So this is an important idea here. And not to say industrialization is bad, not to say that there's not upsides of any of these things, because there's been great advances when it comes to human lifespan. Obviously, there's great advances when it comes to people, not dying in childbirth and, being able to live a life of more leisure and not being, in danger of starvation, in danger of natural disasters or any of these other things because of the structures that are built now. But there's also a flip side where it's diminished our capacity to be human. It's diminished our capacity to live how we were meant to live. It's taken away our agency. It's taken away our freedom. It's taken away our ability to function on our own. When you don't develop these attributes, when you don't develop these almost instinctual skills, these instinctual faculties, like there's always going to be a part of you missing. There's always going to be an aspect that is not there. And if you know anything about Jungian or Freudian psychology, when you don't fulfill a part of yourself, it leaves a hole. And this hole gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is what Jung called the shadow. The bigger your shadow, the more things that you do against your own nature, the more the shadow is going to take hold of you when you lose control. When you lose control of your temper, when you lose control of your emotions, when someone cuts you off in traffic, you start flipping them off, you start cursing at them, you start saying horrendous things to them. Like, is it really that person that upset you? Or is it everything that's upset you in your life? And once you start to understand these forces that are working against you, then you could start finding ways to heal the shadows, finding ways for integration, finding ways to find yourself essentially.
The wisdom and balance that nature provides. Ralph Waldo Emerson's view of nature shares intriguing similarities with diverse spiritual and philosophical traditions, highlighting a universal recognition of the sacred in the natural world.
Really
Like
just
Native
Taoism.
American and pagan beliefs, Emerson saw nature as a life.
If you understand Taoism, you understand what Emerson said. I think Emerson studied the Bhagavad Gita. I think that was a big influence on him. I know it influenced Thoreau as well. And interestingly enough, I think I was saying this yesterday when I was streaming, but most great Western philosophers had some Eastern influences. So Schopenhauer very much studied Buddhism. Nietzsche studied Schopenhauer and then studied Buddhism through that as well. Um, I'm pretty sure Spinoza would have to have studied something if he didn't get it from the mystery schools that I'm sure he was surrounded by. Jung studied alchemical symbols from the East. Pretty sure. I would assume Freud studied something, but pretty much all these great philosophers always have some Eastern influence. And it's weird to see that these ancient ideas are kind of revived in these philosophical belief systems.
With spiritual significance, a space where the divine is interconnected with all life. His concept of the oversoul aligns with the philosopher and poet Ibn Arabi concept of oneness of being, which emphasizes that all existence is a manifestation of the divine. Similarly,
It's pretty
the
similar
Hindu
to
Advaita Vedanta's non-dualistic philosophy parallels Emerson's belief in the unity of the individual spirit with a greater universal essence, and also Emerson's vision of the divine as present in nature echoes Spinoza's philosophy of Deus sive natura, or God as nature.
Spinoza's philosophy is so interesting because he wrote it in the 16th century. And no, 15th century, 1600, I think he wrote it. But basically, Spinoza was writing this stuff, and he was hundreds of years before anyone else with these sorts of beliefs, and he was basically a heretic at the time. I don't know if he was celebrated during his lifetime. I can't remember when I was researching him, but it's so interesting. He's someone that if you haven't read anything from, just go look up Spinoza's Ethics. You'll find it right away. It's definitely free online somewhere. And read the first 25 pages ish when he's talking about God. It's one of the most interesting reads you'll ever have because he philosophically describes God through logic, and it's so impressive how he does it because even if you're the most skeptic person ever, even if you're the biggest atheist, you kind of have to agree with him. This is I'm pretty sure Einstein said if there was a God, it would be Spinoza's God. So if you convince someone as rational as Einstein, I think you were onto something.
Many of you highlighted these parallels in response to my previous video on Spinoza's God, which I highly recommend, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. Your insights have helped me find these similarities between Emerson's view of nature and these traditions. These shared perspectives underscore a cross-cultural appreciation for nature as both a mirror of the self and a source of universal truth. Another key
You'll
concept in
find
Emerson's
this.
philosophy.
So what he was just talking about is like a pantheistic God. You'll find in most mystery schools, in most mystical teachings, in most metaphysical principles, there's some elements of a monad, there's some elements of pantheism or the interconnectivity of everything. So this is like a very, very common belief that you'll find in any sort of esoteric teaching. Just so you're aware of it, and you'll see it keep coming up time and time again.
Philosophy is self-reliance, which was far more than a call for independence. It was a spiritual principle rooted in the belief that each individual carries a divine spark within.
My favorite quote from Self-Reliance was Socrates, Pythagoras were misunderstood. To be great is to be misunderstood. And it's talking about the act of defiance, the act of showing your true self and how that's the greatest accomplishment you can ever have. To be yourself in this world is the most crowning of achievements.
He argued that by trusting one's intuition and inner voice, a person could access the deeper truths of life to transcend superficial concerns and without reliance on external authority or societal validation. When Emerson spoke about self-reliance, he wasn't merely referring to independence in the sense of financial or physical autonomy. He was describing something much deeper, an unshakable trust in one's own thoughts, values, and inner voice.
It was the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to be correct, the willingness to stand by yourself in spite of the crowd around you yelling at you, screaming at you that you're this, that you're that, that you're evil, that whatever insult they're levying upon you, having the individual capacity to say, I don't care. This is my belief, and I am willing to die for this belief. It very much rivals the death of Socrates. So if you don't know the death of Socrates, very simply, Socrates got the youth of Athens to question. He basically had these young men going around asking questions that shouldn't be asked of any society. Why are we going to war? Why are we paying these taxes that make these people rich but don't seem to benefit the people? Like very simple questions that even today you're not allowed to ask. And because of this, they were saying that Socrates was fostering rebellion, Socrates was teaching dangerous ideas, and he was put on trial. And while he was put on trial, he was basically given a deal where he could either drink poison or he could live in exile. And Socrates chose to drink poison because living in a world where you cannot express your ideas is worse than death. And this is what Emerson is talking about. To conform to the crowd, to conform to the masses is a worse fate than dying, is a worse fate than anything else that you could experience. And it's this lack of agency, it's this lack of individuality that destroys most people's minds, destroys most people's beliefs, and really is a cause of most mental illness in this world. If you think about what depression is you're not living the life you want to, you're not living the life you see yourself being capable of. You're not able to express yourself in a manner that would make you happy. The situation, circumstances of your life is not up to your pleasing. And it's just it's a departure from who you are with who you really want to be. And again, it's like Emerson says, it's basically you're conforming when you should be standing up for yourself.
Voice. For Emerson, self-reliance was about finding the courage to follow one's own path, even when it contradicts the expectations or norms of society. In his essay, Self-Reliance, Emerson argued that each person has a unique inner wisdom that is as valid as any external authority, be it religious, academic, or social. He believed that when we defer too often to others, whether to gain approval or out of fear of standing out, we lose touch with that inner wisdom. Trust thyself, he urged. And in doing so, he emphasized that self-reliance means recognizing and honoring our own thoughts and instincts as inherently valuable.
Understanding that, like, even if you're wrong, it's okay. Like, even if everyone is telling you that you're crazy, even if, go down this path, even if everyone thinks you're, I was about to say something, but I'm like, no, there's actually crazy people in this world. I shouldn't egg this on. Even if everyone's telling you that this is incorrect, even if the science, the data, all these things are telling you to be something, like if you truly in your heart believe something to be true, it's okay. You don't have to conform. Be open to being wrong in the future. Be open to, you know, not thinking this is the real solution in the future, but like you should be allowed to believe it. You should be allowed to say it. You should be allowed to profess your views.
Emerson's idea of self-reliance is also closely tied to individualism, not in the sense of self-centeredness, but as a dedication to one's personal growth.
Individualism in the sense of it's like people get this mixed up. People think individualism is like do whatever thing makes you happy at the expense of others, but like true individualism is finding the things that make you the most happy. And the things that make you the most happy are never the things that people see as individuality. Like the things that make you most happy are the long-term fulfillment. So like if you set out to be a great artist and you spend 20 years learning to be a great artist, that's something that's not going to be fun in the beginning, but in the end it's going to be the most rewarding experience. And it's things like that. It's not anything that you could get quick. It's not any sort of short-term gratification. It's not sort of any hedonistic pleasure. It's putting your time and energy into things that are going to pay off and are going to give you the satisfaction that you are looking for in life. Most people in life aren't looking for happiness. Happiness is a fleeting feeling. They're looking for satisfaction. They're looking for fulfillment. Happiness is like when you like your team scores a goal, your team scores a touchdown. That's happiness. That's fleeting. That's something that you can experience for a short amount of time, but what goes up must come down. So eventually you're going to lose this. Fulfillment, joy, purpose, these are things you should be seeking. And I usually just say happiness, but I'm going to start changing it because I think it's very important to say, like, nobody is looking to be extremely happy at all times, but people are looking for fulfillment. People are looking for a purpose and something to drive for. And when you can find something that's not necessarily greater than yourself in a sense, but like something that's long lasting, something that is rewarding, something that when you get when you get mastery level at, you're like, wow, I really just did something. I really earned something. I really got to the mountaintop and all of the blood, sweat, and tears, all of the pain, all the sacrifice was worth it. That's what people are looking for in life.
Growth and values. This perspective challenges us to move beyond conformity, where we might adopt beliefs or behaviors simply to fit in and instead cultivate authenticity. In fact, he claimed, nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Emerson viewed this type of self-trust as essential to living a life of purpose, strength.
So this is where like Jungian psychology comes in, or even what Osho said. Osho said that we were born complete, we were born whole, and slowly made imperfect lives. So think of a child that goes to school and they're told they have to sit down. They're told they can't go to the bathroom when they need to. They're told this, they're told that. They're yelled at when they ask a question that's off topic, even though they are interested in the thing. They're basically conditioned not to want to learn because the moment they're inquisitive, the moment they're curious, is the moment they're distracting everyone else. And it's like throughout our lives, we're given these, ideas that when we curtail, when we behave in a certain way, we'll be rewarded socially. And this is where we start deviating from this true idea of ourselves, this true entity that we really are.
And authenticity. Ralph Waldo Emerson is often celebrated for his philosophy of self-reliance and individualism. However, self-reliance does not imply isolation or selfishness, and his views on community reveal a more nuanced understanding of the relationship between the individual and society.
I don't know if Emerson explicitly wrote this, but think of being all that you can be so that you can inspire others. If you're as good as possible, if you set out to do something and you do it and you exceed your expectations, then you're an inspiration to everyone around you. If you're happy, then you can make other people happy. But if you're sad, you're going to spread that sadness to others. We are very much influenced by our surroundings. We're very much influenced by the people around us. And the better we can be, the better we can make the world, the better we can make the people around us. That's truly the only way to make the world a better place. I think Gandhi said it best, be the change you want to see in the world. What you want to embody, what you want the world to become, you must be first. How can you be happy in a relationship if you're not happy first? Are you going to rely on that other person for your happiness? Are you going to rely on that other person to make you, oh yeah, it's everything's great, all that like are you going to rely on that person for endless support? Or do you have to first give it to yourself and have that person make your happiness or give you happiness and supplement? Because the moment you rely on someone for something is the moment they're a drug dealer to you. The moment that you need more and more and more and more. And guess what? That person is a person. That person is never ever going to be able to give you exactly what you need because the truth is everything that you're looking for is something you really need in yourself. Every time you go out and you're like, I need money, I need this, I need that, what you're doing is you're trying to, through proxy, make yourself happy. You're trying to respect yourself because if I get this car, then this person will like me. And if this person likes me, then maybe I will respect the person I am. But the truth is, it's a never ending cycle because the moment you look for something in someone else is the moment you already miss the plot. You can never get from someone else what you need in yourself. Nothing will ever suffice. This is why Bezos is trying to go to space. This is why Elon is trying to go into politics. These people are richer and more successful than you will ever be, and they still need more. Do you want to go down the same path? Do you want to sacrifice everything to get to their position just to not be happy? And that's the paradox of it all. Every effort to make yourself happy through material things is just getting you further away from what you really need, which is yourself. If you can't be happy right now, you'll never be happy. It's a simple fact. Do you expect yourself to be happy with more responsibility, with more stress, with more things in your life? Because that's basically what you're telling yourself. You're telling yourself, I'll be happy when I have this nice car, when I have this nice house, when I have this nice job. Do you know what comes with a nice job? More responsibility, more people calling you, more people saying you need to fix this problem, more headaches. Do you know what comes with a nice house? A bigger property tax, a bigger mortgage. You have to pay more people to upkeep it. You have to pay landscapers. You have to pay the pool guy. You have to pay the security company. You know what I mean? It's like nothing in this world is free. Yet we expect when we have more responsibilities, more stressors, more problems to be happy. I'm telling you what, if you can find happiness now, it does not matter what happens to you. The circumstances don't matter. Find happiness now, and you have already solved the biggest issue of life, which is fulfillment, which is the ability to be content, which is the ability to understand that the external circumstances do not matter as much as the internal circumstances. No matter who you are, you can drive yourself crazy. No matter how much success you have, no matter how much fame, no matter how much money, you have the capability to make yourself insane. You have the capability to make yourself depressed. Okay? You need to you need to find the ability to be happy now because if you can't find it now, it's going to be that much harder when you have all the material possessions in the world and you're still unhappy. That's the biggest thing I want to get across today.
Rather, he believed that authentic relationships and meaningful contributions to the community arise when individuals first cultivate their inner strength and integrity. In contemporary terms, Emerson's philosophy of self-reliance challenges us to step back from the external pressures of social media, pursuing trends, cultural norms, or material success, and instead look inward for guidance. It's a call to silence the noise of the world and rediscover the wisdom and power already within us.
So what he just said is something that I like to explain through this example. Have you ever been working on a project? Have you ever been writing a paper or doing something? For whatever reason, it wasn't working. For whatever reason, you couldn't get the words to come to you. You couldn't get the solution. You step aside for 10 minutes. You step aside for 20 minutes. Think about anything except the project you're working on. And then the answer just comes to you. When you quiet down the noise, you have the answers. When you calm down your mind, everything is solvable. But if you allow your mind to run, if you allow your mind to fixate on things, to worry about things, then you're getting further from the solution that you already have. You already have all the answers. Your intuition is smarter than any idea that you could come up with through your normal functioning brain. And once you start listening to this intuition, once you start listening to this voice, then you basically have mastered your creative faculties. And again, this stuff is like this is purely like me talking from my creative side. So if you're not someone that's very creative, like don't stress out about what I just said. But it's something that if you can start pulling from, if you could start using the knowledge you already have and mix that with your intuition, then you're going to be fine. You don't need to worry about anything. Creativity is the one thing that's lacking in this world. And if you could start working on your creativity, then that's the greatest way to get ahead. And again, it's not that you should want to get ahead for the sake of getting ahead, but like I think we should want to progress the world through a creative, uplifting way.
Through self-trust, Emerson believed, we can achieve not only personal fulfillment, but also a deeper connection with others and with the universal truths that bind us together. I encourage you to reflect on how Emerson's philosophy might resonate in your own life. What would it mean for you to reconnect with nature, to trust your intuition, or to see yourself as part of a universal spirit? Perhaps it starts with small steps.
Don't be like weird and be like, oh, I have to go out in the woods and spend time in the woods. Like that definitely will help. It'll definitely help you calm down. It'll definitely help you get things, but it's not so literal in the sense of like if you go out and sit among the trees, then you'll find the answers to everything. You know what I mean? Like there is something to that because that is what monks do. Monks get themselves away from the world and they find profound experiences. But you could also just understand yourself. You could align yourself with your real nature. You could look yourself in the mirror and say like, what is it that I love most in this world? What is the thing that brings me the most fulfillment? Why don't I start doing more of this? Why don't I start living and embodying the characteristics that I actually like about myself? Why don't I start doing the things that make me myself happy every single day? Why do I stress myself out? Why do I go on TikTok? Why do I go on Instagram? Why do I go on the news? Why do I follow all of these things that actively stress myself out, that actively make my life worse? And once you start asking yourself these questions and start fixing these things, you find all the answers you need. Um, Maybe this will be interesting.
Hey guys, welcome back to Amygdala Vids, the channel that you can rely on for subpar pop philosophy. Today we're going to be looking at Ralph Waldo Emerson's Divinity School Address, which offers a controversial look at Jesus Christ, and the importance of us human individuals within a religious context.
So I've heard what he says in this speech. It's not controversial because he was a Unitarian. He's literally talking about the Unitarian belief. The Unitarians believe that they just believe that Jesus was a God. That's all they believe. And it's like if you believe the contrary, then that's fine. But like if that's the belief of the church you grew up in, like it makes sense why you said it. You know what I mean?
But before we start guys, I want to give a quick shout out to no one.
All right, wait.
No one. So way back in
I
1838,
was
just
about to turn
yesterday
off the
really,
video. I'm
Ralph
not even
Waldo
joking.
Emerson gave the speech to a graduating class at the Harvard Divinity School. Now, although there were only just a couple students, ministers, and professors there, this Chad decided to give a speech that disagreed with the perspectives of the audience. I mean, that takes guts. It'd be like giving a speech about human decency to the executives at Twitter. Now, Harvard at the time was pretty big on the whole Unitarian thing, but a lot of the critiques Emerson raises in his essay can be seen mainly to be opposing, for lack of a better word, traditional Christian thought. But we'd really have to look into the essay to see specifically what he's opposing.
Paradox. Interesting. What's Osho? Trying to find a one that I haven't watched recently. I've watched like most of these, but I don't remember which ones I've reacted to on stream. Moving towards healthier. The greatest part about Osho is it could be a 20-minute video, but you can listen to him on 2 times speed and he talks like a normal person. Why are all these videos? Alright, look at this.
What is intuition?
It is a little bit complex because few other things will have to be understood first. Then you can understand what is intuition.
So, intuition is just creativity. Intuition is being sure of yourself and a ready answer and just allowing it to come to you. So, think of think of the moments when you're doing something and you lose yourself in it. There's not a single thought in your brain, but it just happens. Like right now, I'm acting purely out of intuition. Like every word I'm saying, I'm not thinking about, I'm just saying. I don't know what I'm gonna say next. There's no plan. I don't script anything. This is all just off the top of my head. But I trust what I'm gonna say and I trust what I'm gonna say is the right thing. And that's what intuition is. Intuition is simply just trusting yourself to do what you already know you can do. Not thinking about anything except the performance. Not thinking about anything else except what you're doing right now. Like I have a million things I could worry about right now. There's a million things I should be doing. The only thing I'm thinking about is this.
Intuition is the highest rung of the ladder of consciousness. It can be divided into three divisions. The lowest and the first is instinct. The second and the middle one is intellect. And the third and the highest one is intuition.
So I don't know if he's gonna explain it, but this is how I like to think about it. What he said is obviously we know what instinct is. Instinct is like flexes or like when someone punches you, you like shield up. Like think about instinct like that. Intellect is your brain. Intellect is your thought. Intellect is every fact that you memorized, everything that you learned through experience. Intuition exists beyond experience. Intuition exists from something that is almost like a divine source. I like to think of creativity as God speaking through us. That's the easiest way to describe creativity. But that's intuition is where Einstein got all his ideas from. Intuition is intuition is where Tesla got all his inventions from. Tesla was able to think of an idea and simply copy the blueprint that came into his mind onto paper, and that's how he invented everything. And when you can start to work with these creative faculties, then you can start to find a part of yourself that's beyond almost comprehension.
The word in is used in all the three. It is significant. It means these are qualities inborn. You cannot learn them. There is no way to grow them from any outside help.
What? How is that all he said? Oh, it's a preview. Okay. Maybe get copyrighted for that. I know it. Still music. It's not too bad, right?
Creativity is almost like pregnancy. The mother goes.
The idea springs up from nowhere. That's what he's saying. There's like a there's an initial idea, there's an initial understanding, and then just like whenever I write something, I don't know the words I'm going to say, but I know what I want to write about, and then the words come. It's the initial thought, and then the creativity just flows out. And when you get really good at creativity, you'll understand what I'm saying. But I feel like when I say stuff about creativity, people are just like, what is he talking about? But like when you start to think about these ideas and practice with these ideas and meditate on these ideas, that's your greatest gift. Creativity is the greatest gift because creative expression is the one thing in this world that we can all embrace. The one thing in this world that we can all find meaning through. This is really a summation of James Joyce's work. Like Joyce finds purpose through creativity. Jung, his entire individuation process is finding purpose through creativity. That's really the summation of all of these great minds, great philosophers. It's finding purpose through creativity, finding purpose through embracing your intuition, embracing your love of life.
For 9 months in deep, troubled waters. And even after the birth of the child, she is not free of responsibility. All creativity is a deep suffering. Unless your creativity does not come out of the mind, but out of.
So what he's saying is very important. Think of most modern art. Think of Nirvana. Nirvana is probably the best example of this. Nirvana is art, but it's depressive. That's because it's coming out of a place of, I don't know if hate's the wrong word, but like sadness, depression. Like their music is objectively depressing. Like when you listen to Nirvana, it doesn't make you happy. It makes you sad about life. And this is what he's talking about. When you have creativity from the mind will warp it to your experience. Think of Cardi B or any rapper that just talks about nonsense. Like it's not beautiful, it's not poetic, it's creative in a sense because it is a creative endeavor, but it's not creative in the sense of it's uplifting. True creativity is inspirational. Like Shakespeare is inspirational. James Joyce is inspirational. Like that's creativity. That's what creativity can bring, but lower levels of creativity can only express what the author's feeling, can only express the negativity and the emotions that the person is feeling.
meditation. Out of meditation, creativity is sharing the joy,
Think of like
sharing
the
the bliss.
finest works of art, like I'm not even gonna talk about modern art, how stupid it is, but like the finest works of art, like the Sistine Chapel or the Mona Lisa or those sorts of things are always there's always like a reverence you have for humanity when you see these works. Like there's some uplifting feeling. There's some idea that like this was a human being that created this, and like I'm 99.999% similar to this person. Like it's almost like a celebration of the gift of life. But when you look at lower levels of creativity, lower forms, less pleasing, less expressive creativity, then you're kind of just like, what is this?
Blissfulness that you have. Mind has no joy.
Mind has no joy. When you're thinking very hard, when you're worrying about your problems, you ever able to appreciate your life? You're ever able to smile? I think Osho describes joy as the calmness in the moment. It's like when you meditate and your mind is empty, and you can smile because nothing's bothering you. You can smile because there's nothing plaguing you. There's no problem keeping you up at night. I think that's what he describes as joy. But when your mind is active, your mind is going to push you to do something. The mind is going to build resistance. The mind is going to be like, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. Like it's always going to be like the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. There's never a second to relax. There's never a second to be calm. This is what he's saying. The mind is no joy.
It is really a wound, very painful. Paul Gauguin had no idea of any meditation.
Yeah. He said the mind is a wound. It's a very funny way of thinking about it, but I'll explain what he means. So, well, I lost my train of thought. But like what he's saying when he's talking about the mind is both a great tool, but also a great vice. Because the mind recognizes patterns. The mind observes things. The mind tells you how to adapt to a certain problem. But at the same time, if you don't shut off the mind, if you don't know when to stop listening to it, it will also be your biggest downfall. It will also be the thing that stresses you out when you should be extremely happy. It is the thing that tells you you're not good enough because you're not a superhero, because you're not the most successful person in the world. And it's the thing that will always compare you to others. The thing that will always tell you you need to do this or you're not shit. You need to do this or you can't do this. Like it's that thing. That's what he's saying. It's a wound.
But he had a tremendous passion, almost a madness to create. And just to create, he dropped out of society, forgot all about his wife and children and responsibilities. He was possessed by the idea to create. The possession was so total that he cannot allow any distraction.
So he's about to say that's a form of meditation. Meditation is just finding presence. That's how I like to think of it. So people have different forms of meditation. There's the saying the mantras, there's the normal meditation where you focus on your breath. There's also walking meditation. There's certain people find landscaping meditative, certain people find fighting meditative, certain people find different activities meditating. As long as it shuts down your brain, it's meditative.
But when you are possessed by something, you are working almost as a slave. And slavery cannot bring blissfulness. All the creators in the West have passed through long years of suffering. Many of them have been forced to live in the madhouse.
Think of Kafka. Kafka is like the quintessential example of an artist that was driven mad by his greatest gift. Kafka was such a great artist that nobody, while he was alive, could appreciate him. And because of this, it ultimately led to his neuroses. Because of this, it ultimately led to him never quite feeling like he could do anything in life. It led to a trepidation. It led to a fear. It led to a insecurity that ate him apart and made him live such a unhappy life.
houses, and many of them have committed suicide.
He's talking about
The
Van
suffering
Gogh.
became too much, unbearable.
He often talks about Van Gogh because Van Gogh is another tragic artist. I just don't know Van Gogh's story as
They
well
had to end their own
as I
life.
know Kafka's.
But still, the Western creator, either of meditation or of music, painting or of dance, has not become aware why he has to suffer.
It's because they're creating from the mind. That's what he's about to say.
In the East, the situation is totally different. Not a single creator has suffered. In fact, only the creators have enjoyed the life to its fullest. Not a single creator has been turned into a madhouse. Not a single creator has committed.
Nietzsche is another good example of a creative that suffered because Nietzsche could never quite get out of his own way. He could never quite get beyond himself. He could get beyond his own rationality. His greatest gift, his ability to pick apart the logic of others, also was turned onto himself. And it's this idea that like the mind will destroy you if you allow it to. The mind is the thing that makes people unhappy. The mind is the thing that tells people to get in their own way, that tells people to conform, that tells people to do everything against their own self-interest.
Suicide. But creators have moved deeper into meditation, and many of them have become mystics. From painting,
Aldous Huxley is a really good example of this. Aldous Huxley started off as like a normal novelist, and by the end of his life, he was completely a mystic.
from music, from dance, they have moved deeper into their own being.
Emerson's another good example.
The Western society lives under an affliction,
Neville Goddard's a good
the
one too.
ignorance about meditation. Hence,
Robert
whatever
Anselm
they do
Wilson.
is out of the mind.
The weird part is when you start looking at the greatest creatives of all time, when you look at Shakespeare, when you look at anything like these people are the closest things to mystics without preaching the mystical beliefs. And when you see this common thread of mysticism and creativity, then you kind of see the origins of something great in this intuition, in this force. Um, with that said, I'm going to end the stream now. I feel like I've been talking for a very long time. But yeah, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.